Welcome to the Enneagram 2.0 podcast. I'm Beatrice Chestnut.
And I'm Uranio Pais.
And today we are talking to our very good friend, Abdul-Rahman Abdullah. And he's coming to us from Cairo in Egypt. And he's a close colleague of ours. And he is a type 9. And we are going to be talking to him all about his growth path as a type 9, a social subtype of type 9.
Assalamu alaikum, brother Abdul-Rahman. How are you?
So I'm so honored being with both of you and with all the audience in this very informative podcast that really spreads the Enneagram that I love, the Enneagram of inner work, not the Enneagram of fixating people in typology. So I'm so honored being with both of you.
Right. Yeah, we met you only 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago. It feels like it's 30 years, but you run a very beautiful, successful inner development school in Cairo, in Egypt, and that we are very happy to partner with for our CP retreats and workshops. But today it's all about you. And we are very happy that you said yes to self-disclose a little bit about your journey, about your story, and not only with the Enneagram, but with inner work as a whole.
And this is part of a series that Uranio and I have been doing on a kind of in-depth look into a person of each of the 9 types. And so far, we've done type 2 and type 5 and type 3. And so now we're very pleased to have you with us to talk about type 9.
Yes.
Me too. I'm very, very excited about that. And I hope that through your questions, I give um, some kind of insights about the journey that I'm very blessed that has been crossed the path with your journey. Yes, as you said, it was like January 2019, first time we met. But since that time, since I've been introduced to the Enneagram your way, through your school, through your academy, it brought a huge difference, and it's like everything made sense. So I'm so happy sharing the part of the story from my side.
Great.
Yeah, and you definitely hear many stories from Abdul-Rahman, and you think if he's 70 or 80 years old, but actually he's in his
Late 30s,
late
yes.
30s, and it's incredible.
Yes, when I first heard about him, I was thinking he must be in his 70s. So I was quite surprised to meet such a young man when we met you. But let's get to this because I'm sure people are very interested and looking forward to hearing from you. So can you first tell us a little bit about how you came to know about the Enneagram and how you identified yourself as a type 9?
So my knowledge about Enneagram came late because I started my journey in 2001. Definitely, my journey started even before that as a young man in a family and the struggles. But I think it started on this path of inner growth in 2001 with NLP. And when I studied NLP and then coaching, I found myself I need to leave engineering and go to that dimension of inner growth and discovering the soul. And then Reiki, and then family and systemic constellations. So I was like, eager to learn to all tools, all models that help me as a human being first, and then as a social 9 to contribute um, to help and as a social domain to save humanity. And it was so interesting, like when I read my old emails when I was talking to my teachers, like thank you, you gave me the tools that will help me to save mankind, and something like that. And those egoistic social dominant words. So I was keen to learn anything that helps me as a human being to understand myself and to serve. but it was mainly about being a savior, and that I just realized that later. So only in 2013 I knew the Enneagram. So 12 years learning other models of inner growth, and then 2013 in May in London, in Bristol, in England, I was attending a seminar with my teacher in NLP. His name is Dr. Wyatt Woodsmall, and he is he was like my godfather. I learned NLP, coaching, even constellation, systemic thinking, MBTI, all those tools through him. He's like my first and biggest mentor. So he was visiting London and England and Bristol, and he was teaching a seminar for coaches and therapists about Enneagram. So until that moment, I didn't know the Enneagram, and even I didn't do any search on Google to see what's Enneagram. I was very open to learn it from him, and it was in May 2013 in Bristol. And I remember it was 2 days workshop, and I did not stop crying while he was teaching. And he studied Enneagram with uh, Oscar Ishatsu. He was a fellow in the Rika school. So he was teaching Enneagram as a tool for transformation and spiritual awakening. So it was so deep at that time when I'm listening to him, and it's like um, 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 uh, a veil has been released, or it's like it was like a veil that has been whipped away from my eyes, and I started to see myself, see my actions, see my intentions. And it was so shocking. And I remember very well that I went sick for some days after that, because it was a psychological sickness, because it was me processing the information about the 9 types. And he said that for him he was a type 5. He's a 5, and he said that when he knew his type, it was like a rebirth for him. So and it was like this also for me.
Can you repeat his name again? It sounds like he's such an important figure. I want to make sure everyone hears
Yeah, his
who
name
he
is
was you mentioned.
Dr. Wyatt Woodsmall, Wyatt, and then Woodsmall, his family name, and he has a book called People Patterns Power, 3 Ps,
Wow.
People Patterns Power,
Wow.
and he's the NLP president of one of the associations, but he's also teaching NLP from a place of transformation, not to get a new car or to manifest what you want, but from a deeper place.
Right. So were you immediately motivated to learn more about the Enneagram, or did you continue to focus on the other models?
Definitely. I told him, please, I want to be mentored. Please teach me. And he started to teach me more and more and talk with me more about the Enneagram. And then he honored me by co-assisting with his seminars to just hold the space, and then to talk a bit about some examples about the types. And then I started to learn more about Enneagram from other schools, um, um, like Conscious Living with Deborah Uten. I learned from narrative traditions with Marion Gilbert. I learned from Russ Hudson, and from Awareness to Action with Mario Socorra, and I learned from many schools. Um, and my dear friend Hamid Al Maghlawi, he was a business consultant in the field of awakening, and he studied with me in all those schools. And when he met both of you in the conference in Europe, I think 2018, he said, Bea and Uranio are teaching completely different level of Enneagram. And for me, I said, really? Or it's just a type 3 that is just getting excited about something? He said, no, no, you will like them so much. And then we started to ask both of you to honor us by coming to Egypt. And in January 2019, both of you gave a workshop called The Way of the Arrows.
Mhm.
It was 2 days
Just
workshop.
one comment before you go on. Sorry, but what he told me during the conference was it's certainly not too easy for you, Uranio, to meet other people who teach like you. So you need to meet Abdul-Rahman because he does.
So you taught us the way of the symbol, and it was a real transformational process for me because I said, and actually, I think I wrote it to someone, I'm not sure the exact words, but I wrote something like, today, it's my first time to see Enneagram not only as a self realization or self understanding model, but as a practical tool for evolution.
Wow,
Right.
that's great.
Yeah.
And then I studied with both of you also the coaching workshop. I think it
Right.
was the solutions. And when you talked about uh, the type 9 and the social 9, it was for me like I re-understand this again because I studied Enneagram in a way that was bypassing the instincts and the subtypes. So bypassing, it was like the 9. I could understand the 9, but I couldn't understand social 9. And at that time, you answered a deep question. It was always in my mind. Why I'm thinking sometimes that I'm a 2 or a 3.
Mm.
It's like yes, I'm a 9. Yes, I'm sure I'm stable in that. But I see a lot of 2 in me, and I see this pride of the 2, and I see this image uh, status person like a 3. So maybe this is the arrow movement or what? It's what? So when you talked about the social 9 and how social 9 can be mistyped with 3 and 2, and what's about social and social is the counter type, this made huge sense. And it was the first time after the rebirth that with White Widow Small, it's the first time after, so from 2013 until 2019, like the second rebirth for me, because I felt like I finally landed, and it was like a missing piece of puzzle that has been found. So now things are making sense, and now I know exactly what I need to do.
Yes, I had a similar experience of having a whole new revolution in self understanding, finding my subtype many years after knowing my main type. Um, what would you say you understand now about yourself and especially your personality or your ego that you didn't understand before you knew you were a 9 or a social 9?
That the look like angel, the angelic look, the angelic behavior that I used to be praised of all my life. You're an angel.
Mhm.
How amazing you are. You can really control the anger. You can really be calm. You can be really cool. You know, you are a person that I would love to travel with because you don't really make any problem with anybody and you can accommodate everybody. So, this angelic behavior what was the first slam on the face when when I knew the type 9 and its ego and it's the downside of who I am.
Right, that it's actually not necessarily all a good thing, that it's also a problem, especially for you.
Exactly.
What was it like to realize it then?
It was like falling from a skyscraper
Skyscraper?
to the ground. Yeah, to the ground. It's like I was in the touching the sky, touching the clouds. I'm above.
Like
I'm
the angel you were.
yeah, and I'm in a place that everybody really aims to reach,
Mm.
and then boom to the ground to the reality. So it was a big realization. It was a slam on the face. It was like a crack in the heart. And that's why I was in tears in 2013 when I knew that nine, what's nine, and so I just realized that I was suffering um, through wearing the angelic form, while there is another human being inside, locked, jailed, present inside, and he's not even courageous to ask for his own needs.
Hmm. That's really clear.
Yeah.
What do you think has helped you the most to break away from those patterns of being the angel, the good guy, the guy who makes life easier for everyone around him? Because I can imagine that's hard because you get a lot of praise and rewards for that, for your ego patterns in themselves. So, what has helped you to break away from that? Maybe can you even give us some examples of how you may have shifted after you had that realization?
So it started in 2011 unconsciously before knowing the Enneagram. So when I knew the Enneagram, I was like in 200 Hawkins, which is the place between point one and point two.
And
But before that,
that's the David Hawkins levels of consciousness, right? Because I
yes,
know you
yes,
study that as I do. And so 200 is thought of as the level of integrity. Below 200, you're more unconscious than
exactly.
conscious. Over 200, your center of gravity shifts to being more conscious than conscious, but just barely.
Exactly. And maybe below 200, maybe it's like I'm totally run by the type and subtype. It's like I'm fully in the animal soul. So, what started to wake me up from that was 2 years before knowing the Enneagram. And maybe that's why when I studied Enneagram, it was easier for me from the first session to know my type because I've already in the 200, so I can see the passion, the sloth.
Mhm.
So what happened is in 2011 is the revolution in Egypt, and it's like I was on daily basis in conflicts with others and conflicts about opinions, and I need to stand and take a position and not mediate. So it was like environmentally, culturally, something was happening that not only waking me up, it was waking everybody, not only to ask for rights or needs, but also to grow spiritually. So I'm not saying that revolution is always good, but I say just this systemic dynamic brought a lot of goodness to everyone to shake the comfort zone. So it was so much a helping tool for me to wake up and to see that I need to confront and say my opinion and say what I see and to go to conflicts and stay and not run away. All of that I understood later after studying Enneagram, but before I didn't know that, and that described to me why when I was going to any conflict I was feeling like shaking in my hands or my feet. It was like I used to say I'm nervous
Mhm.
because it's stressful, but I didn't know that this is the type that I'm going against.
Mhm.
So that's why this these fears instead of inside me that I will not be accepted. There's a separation, there is pain, there is conflict. This is bigger than me. So this is number one, and then number two, when I studied Enneagram first time in 2013, the first inner work that I did is after the recommendation of my teacher, Dr. White, at that time, is speaking honestly my opinions and be okay to go to conflicts. And it was that at that time, it was something that I cannot say easy, but it was really the right thing that I'm ready to do, which is confronting. Take your phone, see who is a person that you have unfinished business with, and go and talk to this person. Don't keep losing your energy through unfinished businesses that you are fearing to cut the relationship and something like that. And it was like this is the inertia that I got. But the second stage, which is the second rebirth, which is in 2019 with both of you, it was this clear map that started by building boundaries. I didn't understand the word boundaries.
Mhm.
And looking for my needs and ask for them. So it's not only about opinions, it's about my needs. And it was like this painful question: what are your needs in marriage? What are your needs with your family? What are your needs from your friends? And this was a real painful question. What are my needs? And then it went to something else, which is understanding the ego of the social nine with SP repressed, which is makes me like playing God. And this was another slam on the face. Like, oh, I didn't understand. So I thought that it is pure service, but it was real. It was a realization of a deep ego, a dirty, ugly intention behind, which is playing God on earth. I don't have needs, and I will be there for you to contribute all my resources, my time, my energy, my money to save you. So, and I cannot say that I'm over those fixations and or over those patterns, but I can see that I've shifted a lot, because when I look back, I see a different human being who used to live different lifestyle, life pattern. But I am aware that I have still a lot to face.
And I want to say just a couple of things about what you do so that I think people will get an even clearer sense of some of what you're talking about. And that is, you are the leader and the head teacher of a self development school in Egypt called the Field of Awakening. And so I can imagine coming to terms with the idea that all your motives aren't for the greater good, to help teach people and transform them and support them. On the one hand, that's a big thing to realize that, especially as a nine, because nines tend to be so modest and supportive of others and friendly and kind and warm. I can imagine finding that there are different ulterior motives underneath was a big thing. And also, what you said about boundaries, I wanted to highlight that because it's very difficult for nines to understand what boundaries are and to almost have the self-respect enough to make boundaries, and which might mean saying no or not being the person who helps everyone, or making time for yourself or speaking more what you need and want. And so I can imagine, especially in the role that you play in your world and in what you do, it was especially challenging to get in touch with all that you're talking about that you got in touch with.
Yes. So beside that, the role of teacher and healer, which is always you need to be available to your clients, and also the cultural issue, which is in Egypt. There's something an add-on. I think many countries like I think also in Latin America and in other Arab countries, it's so common that the man, the first son in the family, he carries the burdens of the whole family. The whole problems come to him, and he should fix or work on them or provide help for. So my brothers and sisters who are younger than me, they are my children. They are not equal. They are.
Wow.
So and on the culture thing, also in Egypt, it's impolite because Egypt, I think, it's a social dominant country with SP repressed. So saying no to others, it's impolite, and you will be judged badly. So the social line component plus the cultural component plus the role of the teacher and therapist component bring it all together to make it hard for the ego of the social line to learn boundaries.
Hi. If you're enjoying the depth of knowledge offered in this podcast, you might want to stay in touch with us. Bea and Uranio offer professional Enneagram training, personal development courses, self-guided online courses, and they even have a membership platform with over 100 hours of content. Head to cpenneagram.com/podcast to learn more.
Now, Abdul-Rahman, I would like to ask you to do your best to share with our friends listening to you now what is sloth from your experience. Many aspects or facets of that, if you want. What is this passion for type 9 called sloth?
It's for me a very somatic feeling in my body, very somatic sensation that when I care about you and your needs, my body is full of energy. And when I try to think of me, to help me, to see my needs, I feel like all my body is numb. All my body is not helping me to not reach out for getting my needs or doing anything about me. So it was like there is an energy flow always there. And when I think of me, I sleep.
It's like the
And
energy flows away from you when you think of yourself, or it's not
exactly,
there, as opposed to feeling energized when you're in service of someone else.
exactly. And it is a sleep. I feel sleep. It's energetic, spiritual, and physical. So energetic, I feel like I don't feel the energy. Spiritual, like I really sleep, like I'm in totally in the personality. And physically, so I will meditate now. I sleep. I need to do something for me. I sleep and don't do. But I have time, energy, resources to do it for you. So it was this somatic experience of the energy is there as long as you are outside. And the energy runs away, you don't have it. When I even try to think of me, to sit and write about me, to ask me simple question like, what are your needs? To meditate, to breathe, it's this somatic experience. And it was really this definition helped me to calibrate myself and to calibrate the sloth in my daily life and to really observe it in a very somatic way.
Mm-hmm. And what do you now see that sloth does to your feelings in general?
It is the strongest drug ever on earth that dissociate me from my emotions, that numb the feelings. It's like, as it said in the Enneagram narcotization, it's like hash or something. I never tried hash, so I don't know how, but people say it is like you are really you are really not in touch with your true feelings. You are in fake feeling of being okay. But Abdul-Rahman, you are angry. No, I'm not angry. I'm okay. You are sad. I'm not sad. I'm very okay. Why you want me to be sad? I'm okay. I manage well my emotions. I'm okay with whatever. And this is the trap that made me thought that I'm an angel, I'm evolved, I'm above the sky, I'm in the place that people look up for, one who managed his emotions, and I discovered that I managed my emotions by not managing them.
And then after some change, what happens then on that regard?
Big shift. Like I cry on daily basis now. I cry. And I feel anger when it's needed, and I feel fear. Fear is still a bit difficult, but I feel fear. I can say I'm more in touch with the full spectrum of life, with the ebb and flow, with the up and down, not narcotized, fixated in one delusional place, which is I'm okay or good. No, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm okay, I'm tense, I'm angry, I'm fearful, I'm sad, and I feel, and that brought deeper joy to my heart. So I moved from this fake okayness that I used to be there and was hiding a deep depression, emptiness, feeling loss, to a deeper, genuine feelings of joy.
Yes, I think it's an important thing for people to know who may unconsciously avoid their feelings in different ways. And of course, many types do that, to know that when you really engage your emotions, it can be challenging. And yet the payoff is having access to the good emotions as well as the difficult ones, like joy, as you're saying. Can you tell us anything about how you were able, like some of the things that you did uh, or struggled with, or what did you do to make that shift from being more ruled by sloth, losing energy, maybe being sort of hypnotized by your own angelic nature and the people who may be in your world or extended family or school that may have in some ways, you know, encouraged you to stay that way, to be the savior or to be the healer or to be the guy who is going to fix all their problems. Given that I can imagine it was hard to go against that, what are some of the things you did to shift from being able to be in touch with more emotions, being able to be in touch with anger, being able to make boundaries and include yourself in the picture?
Okay, I can give some practical examples. So, in the field of awakening, you both visited and honored our place by your presence. So, I have an office in the second floor, and that office was like um, an open door for any employee, for any student, for any client to come and enter at any time. Even they don't knock the door. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that the first thing I did when I met both of you in 2019, that I put a lock on the door,
That is a
because
great
even
example.
because when I close the door, people still open it. So and this is also part of the cultural difference. So I think
Yeah.
in
Welcome to
Europe this is
Egypt, right?
Maybe you have to put a sign, "Do not disturb," a
I did
9
it. I did it.
inside.
I did it. I put a sign that can flip, that you can knock or you should not knock.
Mhm.
People just neglect it and just they open the door. So I put a lock, and then people start to be sad that or mad because they knocked the door and they tried to open the door and the door was closed and they know that I'm inside. So as if it's not a right for me to just sit in my office to rest or to read or to have a private conversation that's very important. So Then second thing, I got a personal assistant, and I give her my telephone and the WhatsApp, and I blocked myself from direct contact with people, and I only have a phone that can talk to the family and and the chosen friends. So I will choose who I want my needs to bond and connect with, not open. They call it, my personal assistant. She said, "How did you live with this phone?" It's like hundreds of messages every day, hundreds of messages. This is not an exaggeration. It's truth. Hundreds of messages every day, and things that I used to be busy all the time doing that. So I got like a buffer. Somebody is in between, and I confess now it was not easy. Because it felt for my ego at that time. It's like taking my power away and blocking me, and it didn't feel good to do that. I felt like I'm betraying my people. I'm
Yes.
betraying others. I'm letting them down. So one of the things also that I did is because I'm self-preservation repressed. So I started to sit with my accountant and know exactly how much I get and how much I spend because I didn't know. I really didn't know. Until
Wow.
2019, I didn't know how much I get and how much I spend. I don't know. And I did like negotiations with people that I support that I cannot pay that amount of money and I need really to make it less. And actually, I did it. I started to pay half of what I used to pay because there are needs in my life I cannot fulfill because a lot of my money is going to other resources that I'm just supporting and they can support themselves. Okay. One more thing, as you said, my place called the Field of Awakening, and I discovered it's coming from the ego, although it's awakening and the field, but the name, which was touching my heart at that time, I realized it's true, partially it's true because it's the field of awakening, and everybody comes, he feels like a field. But on the other hand, it was the nine in me who wants to hide and not show up. So there is no Abdul-Rahman in the picture. And I used to judge anybody who calls his academy by his name. So I can judge Chestnut Pies. Why Chestnut Pies? You can just call it any spiritual name. You are calling it by your name. And that made me realize my shadows, the shadows of the nine. So one of the things that I did is I established a new project in the field of awakening called Abdul-Rahman Abdullah. And it's a website that is having my teachings recorded, available online for people. And they will go to Abdul-Rahman Abdullah. And I remember now while talking to both of you, it felt when I was choosing this name on one of the websites to choose domain name, I felt shame. I didn't feel good. It felt so bad. It felt ugly. It felt, no, you should not do this. You are a bad person. And when I took a photo session with a professional photographer, she used to tell me, please smile. You have a very beautiful smile. I know you very well, but why you don't smile? And I realized it's a contraction inside me to be a star or to be seen or to be in the front line, not hiding before, not hiding behind the school and other teachers and other things.
And that speaks a little bit to the fixation of indolence for nines. I think these are great, great examples. And what do you think after, so many years, 2 decades observing yourself and almost a decade working on yourself with the Enneagram? what do you think are type 9 tendencies that not all people understand, that are important for our listeners to know?
As much as type 9 looks gentle, kind, warm, accommodating, saying yes to everything you say, um, this is not helping you in the relationship and not helping your partner or the loved one who is a type 9. Um, as long as you think it's the perfect relationship, the perfect partner in business or in life or in love, because we are always in harmony and everything is okay, and we have only some kind of eruptions of anger every now and then, my recommendation is it's time to change this mindset because this will not serve you or the partner or the friend that's type 9. The other thing that I would like to share about type 9 is type 9 is really, really, really finding big difficulty, huge difficulty to speak about what he really needs and what he really feels. So, as much as we all studied and know and hear about, don't take a yes from a 9 as a yes because it might be something else. As long as we say it from a type 9 to all of you, it's a secret. I think I never meant a one yes when I was in
Wow.
personality. It's always yes, but the but is repressed,
Hidden, yeah.
hidden.
Mhm.
So a yes for the 9 and a yes tomorrow and a yes next week and a yes next month will bring a monster, a Hulk later. So it's better to help yourself and help your partner or your friend by emphasizing on bringing the other but, the hidden but that is hidden behind the yes. One more thing also that I would like to share about the 9 is when 9 does not look to his needs, he's not an angel. He's not a good person.
Mm.
He's not evolved. He's not an angel. As long as you see the 9 as an angel and evolved, so he means that he's really fixated. And the more you see the 9 as a chaotic person, as a person who is really selfish, or a person who is really seeing only himself, as much as it's a signs of awakening that started to emerge in that 9. And I want to say that yes, 9s look very stubborn. Uh, uh, but stubbornness does not mean that they are stubborn to get their needs. It's an egoistic stubbornness. So when the 9, because my father used to tell me all my life, and also my mother, my father and my mother did not agree on many things, but one of the very few things that they agreed on, that that they suffered a lot raising me up.
Even though they raised an angel?
Yeah, because they said you are angel outside the home, and inside the home you are a pain in the ass.
That might be a metaphor for what we sometimes hear from 9s, which is there is an inner beast inside 9s. Like,
Exactly,
don't really trust that we are just peace and love.
exactly. So in the outside there is an angel, but inside there is a very stubborn child that always say no. And this stubbornness does not come from me being in touch with my needs. No, it's coming from rejection to any authority above me that wants me to follow certain rules or guidelines. So I will be stubborn to it, not because I have a very clarified, well known need, So when you see me stubborn as a 9, don't think that I'm evolved. No,
Yes.
it's not yet.
And it's a quiet resistance to authority or authoritarian people, right? Because it's not coming out and saying no or having the conflict. It's the stubbornness of being hard to move, and maybe not saying anything, but like you saying, being resistant, let's say, in a more passive way. Given all that, can you tell us what secret wishes you have as a 9?
From personality level,
Yeah, let's say as from personality level, or even as you grow, like things that you've got in touch with that you really want or wish for that maybe you still haven't been able to achieve, or maybe you have been.
yeah, the the um, the secret wish that I've always wished is to find a person who can hold me, to be held, to be held by a group, to be held by a partner, to be held by a friend. And what I mean by being held is there is a lot of chaos inside. Outside, there is always peace, but there's a lot of chaos and pain and anger and turmoil inside. And I don't feel safe to bring this turmoil outside because there is a big fear of separation that can happen after showing this turmoil. So the need to be held, the need to be held was this need. I didn't understand why I want being to be held, but I understood later. It's like I want to crack this shell of peace and to bring this um, um, turmoil, storms outside, and and making and being sure that you will hold me and you will not separate from me. It takes different forms, but it's all about being held. So it's like accept me when I'm angry, or hold me when you see me tired and not being able to help you, or hold me, or stay with me when I'm in conflict with you and I just share different mindset or opinion. It takes different forms, but on that ladder of growth, while they take different forms, the root is one, which is being held.
That makes a lot of sense, given that we sometimes teach the connection between the Enneagram types and object relations theory, which is a theory of psychological development that talks about core needs and core stages in early childhood development. And the body types really have a need to feel held during an early stage of development that has to do with making that transition from being at one with the mother early, in the womb, and then shortly after birth, when the baby still has that sense of being in a state of unity. And in some ways, type 9 reflects a kind of desire for unity or union or harmony with others. Uh, but the tension between being truly connected with another person, and then what the child needs to do early on, which is separate out and become their own individual person. I think for all of us, that can be a difficult transition. How do you feel connected and like you belong, but still your own person with your own ability to make boundaries and know what you want and get what you need in the world.
Mm.
And I think this is particularly poignant for 9s. And so I really appreciate the way you say that. And given what you've said about being a healer and a teacher in your community and being the oldest son in the family, I can imagine there was a way that both in terms of the personality type of type 9 and all of those roles you play in your life, there was a lot of people wanting you to hold them. And I think especially for the social 9, and we sometimes say that social dominance, people who have the social dominant instinct, are energetically promiscuous, meaning they give away their energy a lot for the group or the collective or to
And
other
mix up with
people,
other people's energies.
and mix up with other people's energy. And what they often need to do is be able to utilize their energy more for themselves and be more discerning about who they give their energy to. Given all that, I think it's very important and poignant and profound that you have this wish to be held, to have someone who can match you and accept you, and like you're saying, hold you in all the anger or chaos or pain that you may need to have, and let you know that you're still connected and supported, even if you feel whatever you might need to feel or do whatever you
True,
might need to do as a separate being.
true.
Yeah.
One thing also that I can say about a wish for the nine that came to me while you are uh, giving this beautiful explanation, but I think it's coming from the personality, and maybe it's good to share it with others. Is the nine, and I think it's not only with me; it's about the nines. Um, it's this secret wish that you do me my needs instead of me asking it for myself.
Yeah.
So as
Right.
if always thinking about you and your needs, and I'm always going to one or two extra miles for you. My wish always that you do the same with me, while I'm not saying that, and I
Right.
don't.
We sometimes say this for choose. It's very good to know that that's something that applies for nines. So, Abdul-Rahman, I think that during this interview, you've already shared lots of good hints for other fellow nines, and but I wonder if there's something else that you could share, not only in what they can do to boost their growth, but perhaps even mainly what they shouldn't do.
What to watch out for, what to avoid doing.
Avoid doing um, forgetting yourself. And what I mean by forgetting yourself is putting higher priority for others over yourself. So I remember that anytime I know a need in me, like going to a doctor or checking up on my checking up something related to my health, or I need to do something like prepare a new training, and this conflict with a priority for somebody else that he needs or she needs help. I think this also for the social nine. I always put the priority for the other above me. And when I'm going to and when I go to a negotiation with somebody about any financial deal, any contract, I always put the priority of the other and to be satisfied over my own priority to be satisfied in this deal. And when I discuss with a partner about any family issue, I always think of to make her satisfied from this conversation more than me being satisfied in this conversation. So the biggest thing to watch out is stop considering to be the good accommodator to other people's needs over yourself and show up.
I've
The,
heard you say in the past that nines sometimes have a hard time understanding self-love in a way that is non-distorted.
yes, self love is something that every time I talk about or teach or I hear in a teaching from a teacher, I always get a deep sensation inside me of a split. There's like two of me. One side of me is really feeling like nourishment, like there's something beautiful is waking up. And there is another feeling so big also is resisting this word, resisting this energy of self-love,
As if it was what? Instead of
as if
self-love.
as if it's pride, as if it's bad, as if it's selfishness, as if it is something that will make me separate from people, separate from life, as if it's connected to like deep level of being guilty in a way, as if when I do the time to self love, I feel guilty, like I should be looking outside instead of inside. So, self love, which means for me right now to have a deep capacity to include the whole of me, including my anger, including my guilt, including my shame, including my dysfunctionality, including my failures, to having this capacity to hold me and to expand, to include all of me. I know it and I have it, but I always practice it for the other.
Mm.
So, what the nines should not do and stop doing is practicing this capacity only outside and start to practice it inside beside practicing outside. So, practicing it inside inwardly is what's really made huge difference. So, I said one time to a fellow nine who was in struggle because of the sloth was so much and indolence was so much in control. I said, like, if there is one sacred practice for us nines we must do is self-love. It's the biggest sacred practice, which is I so love. So love for me means the capacity in the heart to include what is without judgment, without exclusion. So the capacity in my heart to include all of me without judging me, without excluding any of me, including my anger, my fear, my sadness, my resistance.
So it sounds like what you're saying is there's both a resistance to and a deep need for nines to really learn to love themselves, to
Yes,
accept themselves,
yes,
to put the same kind of attention and care toward themselves that they put toward others.
yes,
And it seems to me that usually in different societies, things that nines do out of ego are valued, and therefore there is an extra source of doubt on going that way, the way that inner work points out for nines on the Enneagram, which is focus more on yourself. It's not well seen socially, and perhaps it makes it more difficult for nines to do the work.
exactly. So, for example, usually our students who um, coming from a type 8, we usually hear very positive stuff from their family, from their relatives, from their friends about how they become more vulnerable, more including,
Mm.
more patient. But usually the feedback comes from the type 9, and it happened to me and it happened to all the nines that are doing amazing, good inner work, that people always say, you are becoming a worse person.
Selfish.
Yes. So you used to be a
Yeah.
very good person, now you are a bad person.
Yeah. So we have to really let nines know that if you're getting that feedback, that's actually a good thing. It's a mark of doing really excellent inner work if people start to complain about you. Because the ego pattern is to be someone people don't complain about and to over adapt to everyone else. Now, you've said a lot about relationships and your relationships in the course of this interview, but are there any other relationship patterns that you haven't touched on yet that might be good for people to understand about the type 9 if they're in relationship with a 9? Either things nines do or ways nines need to grow in relationship, and so how people can support nines.
I think the key word for us type 9 in relationships is healthy conflict is better than fake harmony.
I love it.
And and by this we can stand strong, relaxed in conflicts. Stay in conflicts. Stay in conflicts and don't run away is a key factor in relationships. And until now, I struggle in this. Yes, I did good improvement, but I see the 9 in me. I see the contraction in me to make a phone call that will bring conflict, or to meet a person that will bring conflict, or to talk with somebody who is angry at me, or even to ask my needs that will bring conflict in a relationship.
Yeah, and yet, if you don't um, say things that are difficult in relationships, like have the difficult conversations, some other bad things can happen. And perhaps you have noticed that over time.
Yes, I noticed that the hard way in my life, that the relationships, a wife or a friend or a business partner, when I do the good things that the personality of type 9 does, like being an angel, having no needs, compromise, harmonize, narcotize, all the icing that we do, what happens is that, and all of that are coming from a big fear of the pain of separation. And what happened that all those relationships, all of them, not single one, passed. I've separated from them, or they separated from me in a very aggressive, painful way, and with a lot of criticism and judgment on me that I'm not understanding or I'm a bad person. So all the things that I feared of, and I sabotaged and repressed and narcotized my needs in order not to be badly judged, they came later in a very aggressive, bad way. So
Yeah.
in relationships, as long as I was pushing away conflicts as if they were like very minimal, very many stones, and I was pushing those many stones away until they become a mountain that fall on my head, and I could, in a way that I cannot deal with. Whether in the beginning they were like many stones that, yes, they are stone, they are hard, but they are manageable. They can be faced. So the mantra I use when I'm in a conflict in a relationship right now is now rather than later.
That's a good one. Simple, effective.
Now in a manageable way as opposed to
Yes,
later in a catastrophic way,
yes,
potentially.
Yeah.
yes.
Um, if we may ask you, if you want to share with us, what is your next challenge on your growth path? Something that you're working on yourself right now, something you haven't yet fully addressed.
So the list is still big, but on the top of that list is being able to stay in my heart without losing the heart-to-heart connection with people while conflict.
While in conflict. So it's like being fully with the other while being fully with yourself in situations that are not the most comfortable ones for you.
Exactly. So I used to be with the other, and then I moved to be with myself in an aggressive way, like me first, me first. So, and that it's like the pendulum movement to the other side and
Yeah.
cutting me from being considerate to the other and being really in contact. So being in fully in my heart while not losing the connection I genuinely and naturally have with the other in conflicts and bad times and discomfortable times. Um, the second thing um, that I still have is in my mind, I still have this, what you call in CP Academy, the idealization in the social nine, which when I see somebody doing something good or someone who is really acting in a good way, in my according to my judgments, my mind put this person high as if he or she has a quality that I don't have, which is part of the indolence, which is putting more importance on the other over myself, or
Yeah.
seeing the good qualities in the other and not seeing it inside myself. I still observe it and I still find it many times, like in that teacher or in that coach or in that wife or in that husband. So I always see like the good quality outside, and when I see it, I just try to remind myself, and sometimes I succeed, sometimes it stays for some time. Like what I see outside is already inherited in me, but the ego of the nine is excluding it. A third thing is vulnerability. Vulnerability for me is very fearful quality because being vulnerable means that I will not be loved, I will not be held, I will be a very, very messed up human being like everybody else. So I will not receive love from being contained, accommodating to everybody around. So as if it's like a trade. As long as I'm being able to be strong, holding, accommodating human being, I deserve love. But when I fail in that and I'm actually shaking from inside like you, I'm facing difficulty like you, I'm fucked up like you, as if when I'm in that place and showing it up, I will not receive from the other what I am expecting or what I'm really needing. And I was hearing Brene Brown in her one of her talks. I love this woman, and she was saying that how many of you wants to dare greatly and to be vulnerable? So everybody in the room raised the hand, and then she said, how many of you can be vulnerable to ask for his needs? And then only maybe one quarter of the room raised the hand. So and then she said, every time when you ask your needs, you judge yourself, make sure that you are judging others while giving them their needs. And this was big for me. This was like another slap on the face, like, look to your ego. It's not pure service. You are feeding the ego while serving. So being vulnerable and allow myself to be um, to be without anything is the third um, thing on the path.
Is there anything else that we haven't asked about, or anything else that you think would be good for people to know about the type 9 growth path that we haven't covered yet that you want to share as we close out this conversation?
I believe taking time away from people and sitting quietly, silently with the self and having inner conversations, long conversations with the self, without external distractions.
Mhm.
I remember that the first time I could successfully manage to do isolation was after meeting both of you in 2019. I had many attempts before that, and maybe after 6 hours, 12 hours, I cannot continue. But since I met both of you, I could really manage 3 days and more being completely silent, completely on myself, completely without allowing external distractions, and me is the center of my attention. Um, Another thing that helped me a lot is journaling and taking track of what's happening inside me. And not only my dreams, but also my thoughts, my conflicts, my questions to myself. And journaling was one of the biggest tools that helped me to realize a lot of unfinished businesses inside me, a lot of burdens inside me, a lot of needs inside me that were not known to me, were repressed, narcotized.
I love what you're saying, because it's like, as a 9, you need to turn inward and get to know yourself. Like, spend time with yourself, spend time focusing on what's going on inside without your attention leaving you and going somewhere else. Writing about what you're thinking about and feeling, being physically separate, alone, just with yourself. I think that's a beautiful tip for people to understand about the type 9 experience.
Yeah.
One more thing, I don't know how to say it, but it was a deep realization in me um, um, after long-term dysfunctional relationships or problems with close people or challenges in my career. I discovered that my body was always smart to give me clues and guidance, but the 9 in me, the personality in me, was playing another role of narcotizing that and making distortions. And instead of that, I was asking other people
Mm-hmm.
of what do you
Mm.
think what I should do, or what do you think what's the best thing to do here. I asked my mother about my relationship with my partner. I asked another consultant about what I need to do in my career, and my body was giving me the signs since early time, and I was not conscious enough, awake enough to stay in that inner communication with the body to get the clue and take the
To
next step,
listen.
and then another clue, and then next step. So I can say to my fellow 9s that our bodies are extremely intelligent, very instinctive. We know a lot in our bodies, but we are very busy with the outside, thinking like other opinions outside are more important than our opinions, and uh, harmonizing with others are more important than harmonizing from within. Fulfilling other people's needs are more important than seeing and knowing our needs. That this put like a distraction from listening to those clues and make magical transformations in our lives through them.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I know
we
I know that one of the things that Uranio's taught me, that I see him doing all the time, that I love, is when we work with people, he'll ask them a question and he'll say, "Don't answer with your head, let your body answer." And I think
Mm.
nines can sometimes be disconnected from their bodies. But I love what you're saying, because it's an important thing for nines to do, to realize how much wisdom is in their body, and to be able to reconnect with
You
that.
know, it's like as much as this wisdom is so big in the body, as much as the ego is
Mhm.
successfully disconnected us from this treasure.
Yeah, but you don't cease to do that with other people. You don't do that only with yourself. So
Mm.
sometimes we teach that, for instance, nine as the center of the body types, the triad, the instinctual triad. They use the instinctual energy, which is the dominant one, for everything but for themselves.
Exactly.
And similar things happen with threes and sixes in their respective triads.
Correct.
But this is something
Correct.
for
I agree.
another podcast. I think you spoke beautifully about that. Um, but my heart asks us, but I would like to ask you a final question before we close this, because you're a nine. Can you close with some sharing of something really beautiful about nines when they grow, and about yourself as you grow? I think it's a good task for you to own good things about you.
Since long time, I do a meditation called "Who Am I?" And it's by asking a question, "Who am I?" And then I wait for the answer, and then the answers comes like, "I'm Abdul-Rahman, I'm Egyptian, I'm Muslim, I'm blah 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 blah," like that, until this answer started to expand, to understand the truth of who I am, which is bigger than this shape, this form, this personality. So I think one of the most amazing things that happened with me, that I can, in a vulnerable way, share with both of you and with your own audience, because it's not easy for me to share something like that. So after practicing what the social nine should do to wake up from his patterns, when I start to ask this question, "Who am I started to experience another world inside me that I was blocked from. And last Ramadan, it was in May, I think the 5th of May or the 6th of May, I was in isolation and I asked this question, "Who am I?" And then I received a beautiful answer. And it was a beautiful moment that I would love to share with both of you and with all your audience. It came, this answer, from inside outside, like I don't know from where this answer came. It came, and what in this universe is not you? So in my early ages, I was playing nine to experience unity, but I discovered that more the nine in me makes me more separate from me and then from the whole universe. But with doing the difficult inner work, which is focusing on me, connecting to me, starting to relating to me, I found me, but not only me, I found also the bigger universe.
That's really beautiful, Abdul-Rahman. And we're so grateful to you for sharing so deeply with us and really helping people understand the type 9 in terms of the fullness of the growth path that they can take when they really dedicate themselves to the journey in the way you have. Thank you.
Yes. Shukran, brother.
Thank you for both of you for this interview, and I'm so delighted by that. And I'm a big fan of both of you and all the students in the field of awakening in Egypt. All of them are sharing with me the same deep gratitude to the wisdom that both of you bring to our lives.
Thank you. It's a deep pleasure to be your friend and your colleague and to be with you on this path. It's time for our top 5.
What is our top 5 today, Bea?
Well, as we do every time when we talk to a friend who is on the path, we will talk about the top 5 things we appreciate most about type 9.
When they do inner work, right?
They do inner work, exactly.
So these are not ordinary nice things that we see in all nines who are in more coming from personality. These are more things that unfold for nines only when they do inner work.
Yes, that's right. We're going to talk about things we appreciate when we think about the type 9s in our lives who are really on an inner growth path and are really changing and growing through doing the work. And these are the top 5 things we really notice and admire about them.
Yeah, when we do this kind of top 5, I remember some very dear students and how I got inspired by them during retreats and workshops when they were there in that beautiful place in a higher level of being.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So, what is your number 5B?
So, my number 5 is that type 9s who are really doing their work are less passive aggressive and more straightforward. It's like they're very honest and they really just tell you what they're thinking or they tell you what bothers them. They don't hold on to it and get stubborn as much.
Lovely.
What
Yeah,
about you?
my number 5 is that focused and very big energy that they have when they are more developed nines. That sloth at times make them be depleted of energy at times when they're trying to do for themselves or trying to initiate something new. But when nines are really doing the work, then you see that big and inspiring energy and very focused on doing that one thing that really matters.
That's a good one. That's a good one. So, what's your number 4?
You know, to me, it feels really good when some dear nines in my life uh, value themselves at last. When I see them valuing themselves, I feel so good. Because, when you love someone who's a 9 and you see that 9 not doing for themselves, it feels disrespectful, not only for the person, but for myself in the love I have for them. So it feels really good to see them not shine out or not putting themselves second or last.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And I won't correct your English at the moment, so we can move on.
Ah, okay, yes.
Okay,
I can
yeah.
imagine what was wrong there. Okay.
Okay. Number 3 is no, wait, I haven't done my 4 yet. So number
And
4
I
for
won't
me.
correct you for that.
He won't correct my math, my addition. Okay, so number 4 is they show who they are more as individuals. I think sometimes when nines aren't so advanced on the path, they seek to blend in more and you don't really see who they really are. And so the people that I'm thinking of who I know that are nines doing their work, it's like they're often surprising. They say things that they say and do things that are just really unique to them that they may not do when they're trying to blend in earlier in their inner growth journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. Well, my number three is that they become really decisive. I mean, sharp in what they are doing. And no matter what, like if it includes confronting someone, they still do it. And I really like that after, a lot of time usually seeing nines not do that.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good one. I'm thinking our lists are very complementary. I'm liking the things
Yes,
you're saying. They're
yes.
not things that are on my list, but I'm agreeing
Yeah.
with you.
But they also are interconnected in a way.
And it will give us 10 probably things that we love about nines that are doing their work.
Beautiful. So what is your third?
So my third is that they tend to be very funny and humorous. And this is because I think they say more what they're really thinking. A lot of times nines will have funny or angry or unique perspectives on things, and they don't say it because they don't want to make waves or they want to maintain harmony and comfort. And so they might not say what they're really thinking, but when nines do the work, they say more things that kind of catch your attention that are often very humorous because they're just saying it. And sometimes it's unexpected, but they often have their own special take on things, and they just say it out, and
Yeah.
it's refreshing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
Do
what's
you
your
want
number?
to? Okay, I go first. So my number two is curious. I'll try to explain it. It's a bit complex, but my number two is size. It's what is perceived as being the type nine's size when they really do inner work. And what I mean by this is that they grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and sometimes I feel it's limitless. And I'm talking, of course, about the energy field around them. I'm talking about what's we sometimes call the subtle bodies. And also, you just sense how much power that individual soul has. It's incomparable in my view. It's like nines in personality try to be less, and that is because in essence they are more. And it doesn't mean that they are better or superior. It's just that they are bigger in energy, in a few capacities. And sometimes I say that from a spiritual perspective, it's like nines come from a land of giants. There is this giant spiritual presence in front of you when nines have truly done the work, and it amazes me. It's something difficult to explain and really, really inspiring.
Good one. And I do think some people might think that bigger is better, but I hope they also heard that that's not what you're saying.
Yes.
So my number two is that they tend to be assertive. And of course, this comes from the fact that they're less afraid to express anger more directly. And so I sort of expressing anger and being assertive are kind of one and the same here. And
Yeah.
I find that when nines get in touch with their anger, it's not like they blow people out of the water like they might fear they're going to if they were more in touch with anger. It's more like they find a really good balance between respecting and supporting others and being able to engage in conflict, being able to say what boundaries they need or what makes them angry, or just assert their desires or assert their opinions in a much more clear way. And so it's this, I find nines who are doing work are assertive in the best possible way. It's like an integration of anger in and an integration of more access to what's going on inside and ability to share that with others around them.
Yeah, I think you've just explained a bit more all that I meant behind my number 3, that they become decisive.
Yeah.
Right. So, number 1, now, will you say yours or should I?
Sure, I can say mine. My number 1 is that nines, when they really do their work, become truly powerful. And it's really lovely to see because it's a kind of power that is deeply rooted in knowing themselves more and an ability to be angry and speak their truth. But and but there's not a lot of ego behind it. Now we often say the 9 ego is a little surprising because the ego means when nines are an ego, they try to blend in and they don't say what they think and they look too modest or too humble. But I'm saying this in a different way, and that is their power. They can be disruptors. They can speak out and do the right thing. They can express their opinions in a way that convinces people, not from a place of self-aggrandizement or wanting to have power in a self-interested, corrupt way, but more in a way of bringing their wisdom to the world, bringing their unique point of view to the world, bringing their unique blend of a kind of deep caring about connecting with others and being there for others and being in harmony with others, together with a willingness to disrupt things, to change things, to upset what's happening in the service of things being better. And so I think that nines have a unique kind of power when when they've really done their work. They make great leaders because they're not coming from any kind of need for recognition, or it's not all about them. And yet they're also putting themselves in the picture. As you said in one of yours, they're valuing themselves and their own point of view enough to recognize that expressing their power has a very positive impact on the world around them.
Mm, very nice.
What's your number 1?
My number 1 is love. And I'll need, I think, a couple of minutes, if not a bit more, to explain what I mean by this. The higher mental aspect for nines, or the holy idea for nines, is called holy love. And, in essence, like the holy idea is a very high state in essence. And the holy idea is always the opposite of the fixation and type, which is the lower mental aspect of type, which for 9 is indolence. So what love is, in this sense, much, much higher sense than what we usually call love, is the very opposite of apathy. And it's something that you don't see very often in anybody. I'm not talking about any kind of love at all. I'm talking about what is sometimes described as the one love, the only true love there is, which is not starting or finishing in us. It's a spiritual thing that can't even be put into words. I would need to read Rumi's poems here if I wanted to tap into that. But nines, I mean, in an even higher state, they sometimes tap into that state, and it's indescribable. And that is my number 1 for sure, because I used to have a spiritual mentor in my life who was extremely evolved and all the time in touch with that kind of love. And I believe he was a 9. So I can't even start explaining how inspiring that is for me. There are no words that can be associated to that. So I stay with this 4-letter word called love. It's a love that comes from all 3 centers, not only the heart, it's the head, the heart, the body, but also the higher aspects of all of them, all the subtle bodies. It's when the 9 is totally inebriated by life and in the molecular level, but yet in total stillness, and they are totally there with you, but at the same time they are in the world, but they are not of the world. You just sense that they are tapping into the greater reality. So that is the most inspiring thing I see in 9s when they come back to essence.
You know, I really like our top 5 today because I do think it's very complimentary, that we had really
Yes.
different ideas, but they're all true. And so it's good that we have a long list of positive qualities for 9s to either see in themselves, value in themselves, or aspire to. I do want to say one thing about your number 1, love, as being this higher aspect in a very special way that 9s are capable of, and especially, you know, it is their holy idea, holy love. But also I think in the Enneagram, 9 and the 9 point is often associated with, in an archetypal way, something that is true for all of us. 9 is a kind of foundational type in the Enneagram, there being 9 numbers, it being at the top of the diagram. And it's archetypally associated with, and here I'm talking about the personality side, the lower aspect, with ignorance, as the Buddhists call it, or unconsciousness. It's this idea that 9s fall asleep, and they fall asleep especially to themselves and their own experience, which is the only one that we can have until we get to a much higher state. But I think this is really important, what you're saying about love, because in a way, um, we're all unconscious. We all fall asleep to ourselves. And when we do the work to really achieve higher states of consciousness, to get in touch with a greater spiritual reality, we get in touch with this idea that all is love, that God is love, that really, what is it all about? It's all about love, which in some way is this kind of activated, alive, no longer asleep, fully energized ability to manifest what the universe is all about, which is love.
Yeah, and that is the one energy, this love, behind creation, like the one reason why God created creation. I think we are also talking about this here.
Yes. Okay, great top 5, great interview, and we thank you for listening. We ask you to join us again for our Enneagram 2.0 podcast, where we talk about all things Enneagram.